Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin. So far we've gone through different objections of that atheists may bring. So we talked about the power of Allah the Exalted. We talked about the existence of Allah the Exalted. Now the next thing that may be brought is the problem of the existence of evil. So that's the topic we're going to bring now in our ninth lesson. Does evil exist? That's the question over here. So we see many things occurring when we observe around us or throughout history. We could be sure that when we're seeing things sometimes, okay, sometimes maybe our understanding of what is evil may be off alignment. But sometimes there's many things that us humans can understand as wrong, oppression, evil things. So we see many things occurring in the world, and we notice many different things that people may dislike. Sometimes people call those things evil. Sometimes those things are bad things. Sometimes they are just things that are occurring in the nature of the world, the way it's created. So we see many things occurring in the world. We notice natural disasters. We notice people are born with some disabilities. We notice oppression happens. So we notice that many of these things are occurring and in the world. And people now sometimes look at those things, and those people view those things as negative. And even some may call them as evil, right? This is not right in every case of bad, or every case of, sometimes somebody, every case that it's not right in every case that people may think as bad, because there's lots of things people may think is bad, but they're not actually bad. And then there's things that are bad. So the people have misalignment sometimes. That should be understood. But so we're talking about how people view it. People, whether it's in a different single culture, a certain area of the world, or all the world. How do people view things? Well, sometimes people view things negatively. They view this thing as negative. A certain culture may view this thing as negative. The country may view this thing as negative. The whole group of people in the world may view something else as negative. So there's these different things occurring in the world which people view as negative. Even some may call them as evil. But are all these things really evil? And what is evil exactly? Because we're so quick to maybe these people are so quick to label something as evil. But are those things which are calling evil really evil? Or is there another side to it? So to get into this discussion, let's divide things that people view as negative into two categories. And then we'll address each category. The first category will put natural disasters like earthquakes, tsunami, hurricane. We'll put sicknesses, illnesses, viruses. We'll put developmental problems, different types of sicknesses, mental sicknesses, physical sicknesses we could put over here. So in this first category, we'll classify all these things which are somehow related to the natural world, how Allah created it, that these things are occurring within it. So that's the first category. We're going to look at them and say, are they evil or not? The second category are human actions. when a person does a thing, they don't act by force. We don't wake up during the day and we just do everything, say everything outside of our ability to choose. Humans have been created with the ability to make the choice between saying a thing or not saying a thing, between doing a thing and not doing a thing. Okay, they can't control what happens to their body when there's a natural reaction, when there's this willed reaction to certain things. Like, say, if they eat poison, they can't control the harm to the body because that's the natural world. But the choice to eat the poison was on them. They chose to do that. They made that choice. So when human acts, when human does something, those actions are now attributed to human actions. So now when we look at actions of people, we say, okay, actions of people are either good or bad. If someone goes and gives charity, this is a good action. If somebody goes and commits oppression, this is a bad action. And we see this so many times in the world, the oppression. We need to see more good, and I'm sure there's lots of good happening. But it'd be nice if it was 99% good, even 100% good. But there always, there's people will make mistakes. But it'd be nice if people were all on a line to try to do good. Of course, there's room for test, and we'll talk about it. So, anyways, here we divide what people view as bad, negative things into two categories. The ones which are in the natural program of creation, like natural disasters, sicknesses. And the second one is human actions. Those things which humans use their ability to choose to say or do. So that's the first thing we have to understand, is that we cannot group these all together. Some people may view a mixture of these as being evil, but no, we have to classify them both. We have to separate them both. We have to distinguish first to understand the situation of evil. We have two different types that we're going to talk about. So let's look at the first one. The first one, the natural disasters and the sicknesses and such things. Those things which are created in the creation. Allah's willed for them to be in the creation. Are these things evil? Well, some people certainly view them as evil, but are they actually evil? Sometimes things may look evil to us because of our short sight. We're short-sighted. We lack insight to things. We lack understanding of things. If any human claims to know everything, he needs to humble himself. There's no way you can know everything as a human. No way. You have a limited amount of knowledge. You're a limited creature. Only Allah is the all-knowing. So if somebody comes up and says, I know every single thing, I can tell you, every single thing in entire creation and all, this is absurd. You're a limited creature. You're a limited creature. So humans, of course, there's different levels, right? You have experts and you have people who Allah has enlightened, prophets. They have more knowledge than the average person. And there's people who have less knowledge than the average person, right? There's people who are very simple and ignorant. But there's different levels here of understanding. And that's how we look at things in the world. We understand that there's different levels of understanding. People don't know everything. They don't have an all-encompassing knowledge. Some people may know more than others, and some people may know less than others. This knowledge is dependent. It's something that Allah allows to them. It's not an independent all knowledge. So sometimes things may look evil to us, but because we have short-sightedness or we have lack of insight and understanding of the thing that's occurring, in which we see occurring and happening in front of us or we heard about, we may judge that as negative. We may judge it as being an evil. Like, say somebody has a job and they do dua. They say, Allah, give me a job which is good for me, which is gonna be good for my iman. Okay. Now, say sometime later, their job they get fired from. Okay. They they now they start to feel negative. Oh, this is horrible for me. It's I've lost my job. It's negative. Maybe it's an evil on me or something. Of course, as long as these people are like trying to obey Allah, because maybe you could decrease your risk somehow. If you're a good believer, you're trying to obey Allah. Maybe Allah has something better for you in store. So maybe after some years, you realize, okay, you ended up getting a better job. Allah answered your dua. You gave you something more better for your iman. So sometimes we don't see things. We see things very immediately, right here, right now, and then we judge them. We don't see the long term. We don't understand the whole picture. So imagine you see a shadow of a man. You see, you've probably seen these pictures, right? You can have a shadow of a man with a knife. You think you see a shadow of a man with a knife. You may think that this man, this shadow, is a murderer coming out to get you. But as you may get closer to that shadow, you may realize that he is a man with a stick, or this is a tree that you mistaken for a person. Because why? We have short-sightedness. We don't know everything. We can't see through all the things. So this is kind of a simple kind of example to get the idea across, because it's really based on we're ignorant of many things. Hence, sometimes things look bad to us, but because we don't understand them, because we do not understand these things, and we don't know the purpose and the benefit of these things, then we judge them as bad and evil. But in reality, they're not bad. They're good. They have purpose. They have aim. They have a good to them. So let's look at natural disasters then. What about the situation of natural disasters and sicknesses? Are they evil? Well, are they evil or are they good? Well, it's not as black and white as you may think. Natural disasters and sicknesses can be a punishment to some people. Some people have reached the end of the line. They have ran out of opportunity. Their time is up. They continuously and stubbornly disobey Allah. There's no more collection of hell for them. So their time is up, and this is the end. So natural disaster occurs. Okay, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what these people are. Only Allah knows everything. We don't know all this stuff about each and every person, but Allah knows. Okay, say there's a tyrant amongst the group, and the ground opens up and swallows him, or he gets sick and he dies. Okay, maybe it started before or whatever, but this is part of his punishment. He's going forward into punishment. So natural disasters and sicknesses can be a punishment for some people, but it's not as black and white. It's not only a punishment. Really, Allah knows who is guilty of a crime and who is guilty enough to not have that opportunity no more to turn to Allah and repent. And there is absolutely no more opportunity for such a person allowed to them to reform here when this happens, because they're cut off from this world. They can't reform and change and develop themselves. So that's one class of people that we may say may get caught up in this kind of thing. But it's not only him. It's not only her. Or it may be a blessing to others. So the natural disaster, the sickness, may actually be a blessing to others. Maybe they are being compensated or being relieved of something that they committed. Maybe Allah is rewarding them for their struggle they go through because they didn't have control over it. So maybe they are at the end of their time on earth and it's just time to leave and be compensated in the future. As for those left, so that's from the side of people involved in this group. Okay, there could be people who are getting rewarded, compensated, people who will get compensated in the future, and there could be people who are guilty of a crime. And Allah knows that. Allah knows who is and who isn't. We can't judge that. We don't know that. So so we can't say that natural disasters are evil then in itself. Because if we look at it just from those two sides, and if we knew really what people were getting, who was being compensated, who was getting a punishment, we would see that as just. We would find that as good thing. So we can't say that natural disasters are an evil. Now, how about those people left who survived and now maybe missing a loved one or missing somebody or lost things? So here, those left here to see this and handle it, it becomes a test. Even for those who were not involved but seen it from a distance or heard about it from a distance, it becomes a real life test for them. And a reflection for them that they one day will leave as well. So it being a test, we'll get to it in the next lesson, falls in line with our purpose of life. And we'll save that for the next lessons, but keep that in mind that this is in line with the purpose of life. It's part of the purpose of life to be tested. This is a good thing. I'll explain in the next lesson, inshallah. So it could be, and also it could serve as reflection for those people that they one day will leave as well. Death is coming to all of us. We all have to leave. We think we're going to be here forever sometimes. We ignore the fact, but we're all going to die. So similar things can happen to us. So it becomes then a remembrance which should motivate us to do good, motivate us to be appreciative towards Allah for the things that we have, to treat the things that we have justly, to do justice and good in the world. Not to waste our time with evil and oppression. So similar things can happen to us. And what can we do to prevent a harsh outcome? How can we prevent ourselves from getting adhab in the grave? How can we prevent ourselves from reaching an end that we don't want to be in? We could see how we could avoid a harsh end or a harsh response, a harsh ending for us, either in our hereafter, our spiritual side, which is most important, or also from a worldly aspect. Like if we have a city floods or people get disease, now the scientists and the doctors, the engineers, they will start to seek to develop a way to cure the disease. They'll seek to develop a system, engineer a system to prevent the flood. So these things then become motivations, very important motivations, very compelling situations to advance thinking, to advance science. So that way people can discover a cure. People can discover a mechanism to keep themselves safe. Humans want to be safe. So this is another side to it, that having such things occur in the world will motivate science to develop, will motivate humans to discover, will motivate humans to seek safety, both in this world and in the hereafter. Hence, it serves as a good benefit. Those things are all good. They're not evil. If you ask, is it evil to seek a cure and get a cure for a disease? No. If you say, is it evil to seek to develop safety mechanisms for no flooding? No. If you say, is it evil to have a development of sciences or to seek an everlasting good in the hereafter? No, those aren't evil. Those are good benefits to this. So these are serving as good benefits for human development and advancements of sciences as well. So you have all this different mixture of things going on. It's quite complicated, and maybe even things that I can't even think of when putting these slides together. There's many benefits. These are just some benefits to it, but there could be more things, right, that we don't understand. So it also serves, when you have natural disasters and sicknesses, it serves as a reminder about Allah the Exalted. It serves as a reminder about where we are going, about our situation currently, so that we may reflect and ask, what are we doing wrong? Where are we going wrong in ourselves? And how can we direct ourselves to obedience to Allah the Exalted? So natural disasters aren't really evil then. They have wise benefits. They have good outcomes. They have things that we don't understand, which are good. Things like compensation. Allah wants to give somebody eternal paradise for something that they went through that wasn't in their control. Okay, that's Allah's mercy. So, okay, now what about the physical and mental development problems? So besides the advancement in science, because that could be understood from this about this as well, that when you have physical and mental development problems, the science around it should seek to develop and advance about it. They should seek to find some ways and solutions about it, some ways to uh, have some kind of discoveries towards those areas. So this is a good area, but this is a good area for test as well for people. So from the other side, from the side of people dealing with people that may have physical or mental development problems, this becomes an area of test for people, by which one may obtain many good deeds by how they act. They may obtain lofty places in paradise because of what they do and how they care for the sake of Allah. So how they treat such people. So never treat somebody who has a physical or mental development problem as not a human. Treat them kind, treat them caringly. There's some really, horrible people out there. They hurt elders and they hurt people with mental development problems. That's not right. These people deserve to be treated kindly. They deserve to be treated correctly and justly. So this is a way for people to be tested and to advance within themselves to better human beings. So they could act justly with these people and not be unjust to them. Also, the theologians will tell you that anything that is outside of our control, we will get compensated for. So they believe in the hereafter that we will get compensated for. So like the person who was born with a mental development problem or a physical problem, inshallah, Allah will compensate them for that in the hereafter. So maybe we don't see how these people are in a way actually blessed. They are blessed and a big blessing. One, some of those people, like those who have mental development problems to an extent, those who have severe ones, they don't have all the tests that we have to go through. So they are blessed. They are having this, not having to go through that. And they're also a blessing to humanity, because humanity now can become better human beings by how they handle them, by how they treat them in line with obedience to God, in line with God consciousness. And they can also learn things about humanity, about the physical aspects and mental aspects of humans, which can be useful towards human safety and human betterment from the medical side. So these things then are not bad, because these things are now good things. They're something that we have to work with within the world and handle within the world. They're not evil things. They're not evil things. They're part of the system. They're part of the system and not an evil. Okay, so that's the natural disasters. Now, what about the human actions? Because I said we split them into two types. The natural disasters, the things which are in nature, and then into the human actions. So Allah the Exalted has created mankind, created humanity with the ability of ikhtiyar. Ikhtiyar means free will. This doesn't mean that we were created with the ability to do whatever we want. This means that Allah the Exalted has created in us the ability to make the choice between doing this thing or that thing, by saying this thing or saying that thing, by not doing this thing and not doing that thing, by not saying this thing and not saying that thing. And then Allah the Exalted has warned us, if you do certain actions, there is a threat of punishment. And if you do certain other actions, there is a promise of reward. And certain actions are obligatory, certain actions are mandatory, certain actions are not. So this function of humanity that we have is a very important thing for our succeeding in tests. You cannot take a quiz unless you could choose between the questions. So this is a good. So Allah the Exalted has created mankind with the ability to free will. This is what we term as free will. This simply means that we have been created with the ability to make decisions and choices between doing this thing or that thing, between doing good or doing bad. And this is a wise thing. This is a wise thing because it's in line with the human purpose, which I'm going to talk about in the next lesson. It's in line with human purpose, or the purpose of human creation, inshallah. We'll talk about it a little later. Therefore, when someone does an action, that action is attributed to that person. If we were not able to do a good action or a bad action, then there would be no point in being tested. There would be no point in giving real value to your actions to deserve something better, to deserve a reward. Imagine if you had to run in a race and everyone just had to sit down and the trophy will be given to them, to whoever the judge decides. Nobody had to actually run, put forth efforts for that trophy. If someone put forth efforts and they ran and they made first place or second place, they now deserve that place, right? So similar idea over here. So when someone does an action, that action, we attribute that action to that person as the doer of that action, the doer of that deed. So if someone does something bad, we say so-and-so did a bad action. I'm sure we can think of names, right? But this is what is really evil over here. This is what this is where we're talking about evil. This is what we really want to say is evil. When it concerns a human action, which is an evil, forbidden thing. Right? This is what we mean by evil. Now, what is that exactly? That is simply the misuse of the good things that Allah has created in a way which is in disobedience to Allah the Exalted and injustice. That's evil. The misuse of the good things, everything Allah has created is good, but misuse of them is what is evil. When you do it in disobedience to Allah. Like someone who commits zina. Okay, it's having male and females good, having these relations good, but Allah has commanded us to go have a marriage contract. Doesn't take much. So this is the way it is. That's the good way to do it. If someone doesn't do that marriage contract, then they misuse the good things in an evil way. That is now evil. It makes it an evil deed. So hence, evil is something attributed to the person who does the wrong actions, which is the misuse of the free will and the misuse of the good things that Allah the Exalted has created in a manner which is unjust and in disobedience to Allah the Exalted. So now we have this kind of claim. If God is all merciful, how can he allow evil to exist on earth? Okay. Well, we cleared the floor for many things, right? Now, by evil, we only mean those bad actions and disobedience to God, right? Misuse of those things and injustice. Right? Injustice, it is injustice to disobey God, but that is injustice. Um, so the answer, first, we must notice that this objection that some anti-religious people bring was based on a Christian worldview. Because Christians are really, you know, uh, big on the merciful side, right? They're always talking about the mercy, the love. We in Islam, we believe that yes, Allah is merciful, and Allah tells us so many times He is merciful. Ar-Rahman means the merciful to all creation, right? Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahim is specific for believers. Allah is merciful to everybody, even the tyrants and the people mushriks. They still get air to breathe, and they get lots of facilitations. They get time. They get opportunity to change. Allah is very merciful. Yes, of course, we believe Allah is very merciful, but we also believe that Allah is just. Allah is not unjust. Allah is not an oppressor. Allah will not oppress anyone. So hence, Allah will certainly punish some people for their crimes and will also have mercy on some people. For Him to be just in punishing anyone, that person must be guilty of committing a sin. If nobody had the ability to choose and they didn't commit sins, then it would not be just for them to be punished. When one sins, they become entitled to this retribution. Therefore, we don't attribute the evil deeds of people to God. So this question assumed that this evil existed on the earth and it was attributing it to God. We say, no, the evil deed is attributed to people. We're not saying it's attributed to God. God doesn't do any injustice or evil. These evil deeds are people's deeds. They're people's misuse in disobedience to God. Rather, these things are attributed to humans who misuse their free will in injustice and evil. And so in light of this, the existence of evil actions has no impact on the existence of God. It actually becomes in line with His wisdom to allow people to have this test and to allow them to answer this way or that way and eventually get to the day of judgment about. So that is that His wisdom, that humans are being tested and there will be some good doers and there will be some bad doers amongst the humans, and a day of accountability ahead. And we'll talk about this human purpose next week, and maybe it'll become more clear. So I'll end this lesson there. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.